Okay, well, this is a re-recording. We've already offered our Dandavat Pranams to our beloved gurus, to Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, all the assembled devotees, but I had to restart the computer. So today is the appearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami Pad, and also the appearance day of Sri Vamanadeva the dwarf, incarnation of the Lord, fifth incarnation of the Lord. So we're going to begin by speaking a little bit about Srila Jiva Goswami. This is so important. On the appearance and disappearance days of our great acharyas, they offer us some special opportunity to glorify them, to consider their lives, their teachings, and to seek their blessings and benedictions. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has indicated that even though we are conditioned souls and we don't have the pure vision to connect with these personalities directly, nevertheless they are our well-wishers, and they will hear our prayers and respond in different ways by giving encouragement, often giving us some enlightenment, helping us on our path, because after all, they are all coming from the same line. They're all associates of Srimati Radharani, Radha and Krishna, and they are all on the same mission, right? So for us, it seems like, oh, he appeared some 450 years ago. That was a long time ago. For them, they're living happily in the spiritual world, and this sequence of time that we're experiencing, it's irrelevant to them. So they are always in contact, just as we are more cognizant of our connection, even though it's in separation with our immediate gurus, all of our parampara. They're all our well-wishers. So Jiva Goswami, one of the principal six Goswamis of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was the son of Anupam, the younger brother of Rupa and Sanatan. And when Mahaprabhu traveled and went to Ramakeli, where the three brothers were living, at that time Jiva was just a little baby. And they offered him to the feet of Mahaprabhu. Right? And Mahaprabhu considered him one of his sons. He had three that he considered sons. One was who was the other sons? Kavikarnapur, who was given the benediction of all knowledge and great poetic capacity from a very young age after sucking the toe of Mahaprabhu. And the other was Raghunandan, the son of Mukunda, I believe. Was it him or is it Raghunath Bhatta? Son of Tapan Mishra? Anyway, forget, sorry. Anyway, three sons, Jiva Goswami. So Mahaprabhu accepted him at that time. Jiva Goswami grew up under the care of his uncles, but his uncles, after a short while, they left for Vrindavan. We know their stories, how they both got to Vrindavan, Rupa and Sanatan. And Jiva Goswami was left with the extended family with sufficient funds, and he received the highest education possible. I mean, they had a very large, compound. They were very wealthy, the two brothers, being in the employ of the king of Bengal, the Muslim king, and they had left sufficient funds for his education. And when he was a teenager, he had exhausted all of the possibilities of education that could be offered by these high-class brahmanas. So he went to Navadvip. And there he met Nityananda. He wanted to meet with Mahaprabhu, but Mahaprabhu was in Puri at this time, having taken sannyas, and he met with Nityananda. And Nityananda gave him very good instructions. He took him all around Navadvip. It was like the first parikram. Bhaktivinoda Thakur chronicles that in his Navadvip Mahatmya. All the places they visited and all the instructions that he received. And in addition to that, Nityananda introduced him to all of the high-class Vaishnavas that were still living in Navadvip, including he also met Mother Shachi and Vishnupriya. And Vishnupriya was very merciful to him. She said, "Oh, my husband has accepted you as his son, you are also my son." Right? And Vishnupriya, she was living in incredible separation from Mahaprabhu at that time. Would barely eat. Every day she would take a bowl of rice and one grain at a time. She would chant a Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and with her own tears wash that rice, put it aside, and after a certain time take whatever was there, cook it, offer most of it to Mother Shachi, right? And eating very, very little. But while they were there, Jiva and Nityananda, she cooked for them and gave him blessings, right? And very beautiful katha. And Jiva Goswami was so in love with her, like the wife of Mahaprabhu, the eternal wife, not the mundane wife, always taking sannyas and that's all over. She's the eternal associate of Mahaprabhu. And he had this very deep affection for her and actually didn't want to leave Navadvip. He wanted to stay under her shelter. But Nityananda told him, no, you should go. And first he was told not to go to Vrindavan immediately, but to go to Varanasi, where the chief disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was Madhusudan Vidyachaspati. And Sarvabhauma was the greatest scholar in all of the branches of Vedanta, all of the knowledge of the different sampradayas, and also all of the understanding of the commentaries of Shankaracharya. And so this disciple, why would it be in Varanasi? This is the place of all the Mayavads. But he was there because some of them had the eligibility. Not all Mayavads are disqualified. If you practice and you're understanding the absolute truth to be Brahman, but you don't have envy towards the Vaishnavas or towards the Lord, it's just that your realization has not reached a certain point, you're actually qualified to continue in your bhakti. There's no offense there. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma Shochati Nakangshati, right? Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. That means one who's come to this level of Brahman, he can very easily attain me, very quickly, if they get the proper association, right? Association of a high class, realized Vaishnava. And the example is given in the Jaiva Dharma of Sannyasi Thakur, who was in that situation. But by hearing and seeing a great Vaishnava, his heart became, his basically purified heart, he had ascended past the level of, material contamination, and he was a sincere student, but he had not understood the absolute goal. But in association with that Vaishnava, he immediately became attracted, went to Vrindavan, was told about Navadvip, went there, and then met with Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, and we get to see that. So after touring all of Navadvip and actually getting darshan of Mahaprabhu and his associates there, they appeared before them at different places and even witnessing different pastimes of Radha and Krishna there, because that's the place, Navadvip and Vrindavan are non-different, and as Bhaktivinoda Thakur reveals in some of his songs, sometimes he's meditating on Nityananda and Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, and all of a sudden Radha Madhav and the Astasakis and others will appear before him. So for those who are qualified, both Vrindavan and Navadvip will reveal their true nature. So after having that, he did go, And the reason he was sent to study from this Madhusudan Vachaspati was because his mission, chosen mission by Mahaprabhu, was that he was to establish irrefutably the teachings that Rupa and Sanatan had presented with all the evidence from Vedic literature, right? All the different quotations. And he did that he wrote these 6 sandarbhas, these 6 philosophical, what do you call it? Philosophical treatises on bhakti, on Jiva Tattva, Krishna Tattva, Prem Tattva, right? Bhakti Tattva, all of these considerations, because so much of what Rupa Sri Rupa had written had never been really revealed before. But his books didn't necessarily take the time to present all of the evidence for it. He was explaining it in his Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, all these revelations about the intimate pastimes, about manjaris, so many things that no one had considered before. Jiva Goswami wrote about these things in detail and gave all kinds of scriptural evidence. And he did this also with the assistance of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Gopal Bhatta was a greatly learned scholar as well, and having come from the Sri Sampradaya, he and his father and uncle, Prabodhananda Saraswati, he was extraordinarily conversant with many of the philosophical principles that Mahaprabhu utilized to explain his own Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. Right? And so Jiva Goswami stayed for some time in Varanasi, and then when he had completed his studies, then he went to Vrindavan. And there he was reunited with his uncles. Right? And under the guidance of Rupa Goswami, he engaged in writing, proofreading, editing, even though hardly anything was needed there. But he took on that task, and by that he became fully conversant by study and hearing from Rupa Goswami all of his conclusions. And he was the only initiated disciple of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami had many, many Shiksha disciples, but only one Diksha disciple, and that was Jiva Goswami. And from a young age, Jiva Goswami was completely knowledgeable, not only in scripture, but in all these conclusions. And there was one time when Ballabha Bhattacharya, the greatly learned Vaishnava who became the head of his own sampradaya, he had met Mahaprabhu at Prayag and was very favorable to Mahaprabhu, although his inclination was more towards Vatsalya, but his 2 sons, Vitalacharya and I can't remember the other name, they were very close with the 6 Goswamis, and they were more immersed in the Madhurya conception. But he had come to visit Rupa Goswami one day, and he was very senior. He was a very senior Vaishnava, and so even though Rupa Goswami is the topmost authority in everything that Mahaprabhu taught, still he always observed the proper etiquette. And Ballabhacharya said, "Oh, what are you writing now?" And he showed him some work from Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, and he saw one verse that described liberation as being, material desires, but also liberation as being witches that will deter you from bhakti. And he couldn't grasp the context in which Rupa Goswami had written it, and he thought, how can you call liberation a witch when it's glorified in all scripture, right? As one of the ultimate goals. And he also requested, give me this work and let me look at it, and I'll correct any errors I may find. And Jiva Goswami, being complete disciple of Rupa Goswami, was and understanding his transcendental position of his guru, was very disturbed that anyone could say anything that would appear to minimize the perfect works of Rupa Goswami. And so he accompanied Vallabhacharya to take bath to assist him, and then they got into a philosophical discussion. And when this verse came up that Vallabhacharya had difficulty with about liberation being a witch, Jiva Goswami said, actually, it's not liberation itself per se, but the desire for liberation, which is the witch, right? The desire. And liberation can mean, it can be very broad. It can include going to Vaikuntha, going to Goloka Vrindavan, or it can be Brahman realization. But the desire for that Brahman realization, that's the obstacle, right? That you don't want. Ultimately, the devotee, to come to the highest level of pure bhakti, devotee doesn't want anything. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, to satisfy and to prevent Radhika from feeling the pain of separation, I would be willing to give up my life, hundreds and hundreds of times, right? Gurudev has mentioned that the cowherd boys, their love is so strong that even to wipe off the sweat and remove the heat from Krishna's body after a strenuous day, they would give up their life. The devotee has no separate interest, no individual interest other than making Krishna satisfied, removing any discomfort or pain or anything, right? So separate desire, right? Anyabhilashita, shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam, right? Any kind of separate desire. So subtle point. So Vallabhacharya went back and he praised Jiva Goswami. Because Jiva Goswami, he didn't present it arrogantly. He's a Vaishnava, very humble, but he felt the duty to correct Vallabhacharya. And so when Rupa heard, Vallabhacharya said, "Oh, your disciple is very intelligent. He's so young, but he's so deeply learned," and indicated a little bit about their conversation. And Rupa Goswami was a little distressed. And so after Vallabhacharya left, he chastised Jiva Goswami and said, "This senior devotee, you dare correct him? You have no humility, right? Not necessary." And so he was giving him instruction on Maryad, on the way in which Vaishnavas deal with each other. And said, "You've acted inappropriately. You're not fit to be my disciple. You should leave from here." And then the question is, well, he did that out of intense desire to uphold the words of his guru. Did he do right? Did he do wrong? Right? It's a leela. It's a pastime to show there is a maryad. We should observe it. On the other hand, his internal desire and approach was also not wrong. But Rupa Goswami felt that it was inappropriate because he showed as if his guru had not taught him anything, had not taught him proper etiquette, a brash young boy correcting his elders on what would be really a minor point when you actually look at it. It could have been done another time, another way perhaps, but it created a pastime wherein Jiva now, he was forced to leave. And he went to a distant village in the greater Vrindavan area, and he just began to experience separation. He didn't eat, he didn't drink, and all day and all night he just cried out the name of his guru, in separation. Hey Gurudev, hey Rupa Goswami, right? And also Radha and Krishna, hey Radha, just feeling intense separation. Because Rupa Goswami is always with Radhika, right? So, Sanatana Goswami used to do his parikram all over Vrindavan, all over Govardhan, all over Mathura, and he knew intimately all the villagers in every place. And when he came to this distant place, now Jiva had been gone for quite some time. And nobody knew where he was. And then the villagers came and said, "Oh, Baba, for the longest time we thought you were the greatest, most renowned sadhu. Now there's someone who has surpassed even you." And he goes, "What?" And there's some young boy. He lives nearby in a crocodile hole. Crocodiles on the side of the riverbank, when they want to lay their eggs, they dig a little cave, right, in the side of the bank, and then they put the eggs there, and then they guard them until they're hatched, and then they leave it. So he was living in a little cave on the river, and not eating, not drinking, and Sanatan said, "Take me to him." And when he saw Jiva Goswami was in such a pathetic condition. He was emaciated, completely starved, and covered in sores, and sick with fever and delirium from fasting, from everything, and from his separation. And Sanatana Goswami was so moved by this sight, he took him in his arms and he took him back. Right? I think they went back at that time to Sevakunj area, near Radha Damodar area, where Jiva Goswami was giving a discourse. Rupa Goswami was giving a discourse, and Jiva Goswami, he was nursing him, and he put him aside. He didn't show him to Rupa yet. And then he said to Rupa, Sanatan said, "What is the duty of the Vaishnavas?" And he said, "Oh, to show compassion to all jivas." And he said, "Oh, you have said we should show compassion to all jivas, but this jiva you won't show compassion to?" And he brought the emaciated Jiva Goswami, who was just shedding tears of love for his guru. And when Rupa Goswami saw him, he also began to shed tears. He had also been in separation from his disciple. And when he saw the condition, his heart melted, and he took him on his lap, and they were crying, and then they nursed him back to health. And then he continued writing, editing, and after the disappearance of Rupa and Sanatan, of course he was in so much separation, but he took on the mantle of the leader of the Vrindavan Gaudiya Vaishnavas and the Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha, the universal Vaishnav assembly, right? That's what it was called. All the great Vaishnavas. It's not like it was an institution with constitution and all that, but the Vaishnavas all consider themselves under the guidance of Rupa Goswami. First Rupa Goswami, then Jiva Goswami. Right? And then he was the instructing spiritual master of so many, right? Of Narottam, Srinivas, Shamananda, powerful Vaishnavas like that. Oversaw the publication of so many Vaishnav literatures, sending them to Bengal so that they could be copied again and distributed. And also, he had taken a vow never to leave Vrindavan, but Akbar the king had a big assembly in what's that town south of Vrindavan? Begins with an A. 60 kilometers away. It's in my brain. I need more of your tincture. Get my brain working. Where he would stay. It'll pop up soon. There's a lot of good things about getting old. There's a few bad things, Anyway. And there was an assembly of Brahmanas there, and he had the question, who's superior, the Jamuna or the Ganga? And there were devotees of Vrindavan that felt that the Jamuna was superior, devotees of Navadvip and Bengal that felt the Ganga was superior. And there was a big philosophical debate they couldn't reconcile. So he asked Jiva Goswami to come and reconcile it. And so Jiva said, "I can't do it because, you're 60 kilometers away. And I've made a vow never to spend a night out of Vrindavan." And he said, "Okay." And he set up a relay of chariots to be pulled. Kind of like in America, they had the Pony Express. Every few miles, fresh horses, so they could just gallop across the country really fast with the mail. So he had these chariots, and these horses could go full speed. Horses pulling a chariot, they can go, 30 kilometers an hour quite easily for some time. So he could do it in a few hours with these chariots, do the assembly, and then get back in time. So he went, and there were devotees on both sides, and he gave the glories of both. And then he said, who is the Ganga? She is like the maidservant of the Lord. She has washed the feet of Sri Vamanadeva, right? So she's like the maidservant. And that's going to lead in, of course, to our next conversation about Sri Vamanadeva. Who is Jamuna? She's Kalindi, one of the queens. So who's higher, the queen or the maidservant? Right? Because on the one hand, Mahaprabhu's pastimes are there. He's Radha and Krishna. On the other hand, Radha and Krishna's pastimes in the Jamuna. But then he reconciled it in that way. He said the queen is actually higher. So in that sense, the Jamuna is higher. But on the other sense, both the Jamuna and the Ganga flow together in Navadvip. They've joined together. And Mahaprabhu has bathed in the Ganga. And Mahaprabhu is the combined form of Radha and Krishna. So they're actually equal. So he satisfied everybody. And the king was so happy because that's this big contention. There's something about scholars and Brahmins and, Vaishnavas. They love to argue points of philosophy. And sometimes it can get quite contentious and cause, emotional divisions between them. It's sometimes hard to reconcile. But Jiva Goswami established all the highest philosophical points and reconciled it for the satisfaction of everyone. No one had to feel bad. And so the king said, I'll give you whatever you want. He says, well, I don't want anything. I live in Vrindavan. I have everything I want. Well, surely there's something I could give you. All right, if you want to give me something, I need paper. Paper was very rare back then. Only the king had paper. And they would use it for official documents and everything like that. Because it was all made by hand and pressed by hand. And so he gave him a warehouse full of paper, which was then used to, usually they just wrote on these special leaves, right, that would be dried out. And even today you can see books that are written on those leaves. They're, still being preserved. But paper worked, it was easier to write on and could be preserved easier also. So he gave him that gift. And Jiva Goswami continued being the leader of the Vaishnavas. So many intimate pastimes. We could go for quite a while, but we have to jump over to Sri Vamanadeva. And Jiva Goswami appeared on this day that Vamanadeva appeared. Vamanadeva covered the entire universe with his 3 steps, right? And showed himself to be the master of the universe. Jiva Goswami covered the entire, all the philosophical conceptions taught by the greatest scholars in all the planets, from the lower to the higher planets, right? And he was a universal teacher, the designated heir from Mahaprabhu. So Vamanadeva conquered the universe. Jiva Goswami also conquered the universe, right? So they appeared on the same day. Why did Vamanadeva appear? And why did he take that form as a dwarf? Bali Maharaj was the grandson of Prahlad. So he's in this dynasty of Hiranyakashipu, and he is therefore the head of the same Daitya dynasties, the dynasties of all the demons, those who are opposed to the demigods, right? And he was a very powerful king, but he was opposing Indra and their cohorts, the Devas, and they were always at war. And there was a great, great battle, and Bali Maharaj had been defeated, right? Defeated. And after the battle, one of the great battles in history, and Indra had a victory celebration at his palace. And all the Devas were there, and they were all praising Indra. Oh, you are the greatest of fighters. You have done so much, And he's absorbed, taking in that praise. He's sitting on the high seat, and all these great, even the sages are glorifying him because he's designated upholder of Dharma. That's the duty of the king. And he is the king of the demigods. And then Brihaspati comes. Brihaspati is his guru, the guru of all the demigods. And Indra sees him. But at that moment, Indra was so steeped in the praise that he didn't want to get off his throne and bow down in front of everybody to his guru. He was embarrassed to do that. This is how pernicious praise is, right? That, I'm the king. I can't humble myself at this point, right? He didn't want to. It's just a moment. Even though he's so learned, he's a devotee, a great devotee, right? But that afflicted him. And then, and so he looked away, pretended not to see his guru. So he wouldn't have to, his guru came in that door and he looks over that way. But Brihaspati, he knows all. And so he just walked out. Didn't chastise him directly, just walked out. And by doing that, he withdrew his power from Bali. The leader, the guru of the demons, is Shukracharya. He was the guru of the demons, but he was a very powerful Brahmana. Brahmanas, by their austerities, they have tremendous power. And he has tremendous power. Krishna mentions him in Bhagavad Gita, right? Of Brahmanas, I'm Shukra. So huge power within the universe. And he could detect that Indra's power had been withdrawn by his guru. And even though they had just been defeated, he told Bali, gather your armies, go immediately and attack Indra. Now you can defeat him. And they did, and they defeated Indra and scattered the demigods everywhere. And Bali became the leader of the universe, sitting in Indra's place and all that. And so the demigods are distressed, and the mother of Indra, Aditi, and the mother of so many others, she was very saddened by this. And she thought, only Lord Vishnu can help me in this regard. So she wanted to determine how to do austerities to get the Lord as her son. And so her husband gave her this instruction, this Payovrata ceremony, which is this austerity she performed, I think for a year. Yeah. And she did this very perfectly and did such austerity, completely controlled her senses, right, in every way. And then the Lord agreed to appear as her son. So he appeared first in the heart and mind of Kashyap, who understood, okay, now the Lord has appeared, he's blessing us. And from his heart to her heart, the Lord was transferred, and he entered the womb of Aditi. And then all the demigods understood this, and they began to offer prayers. And then after some time, the Lord appeared directly. He'd been in her womb, and then he appeared directly before them in his four-armed form. Very beautiful, very powerful. All his conch, club, lotus disc, crown, ornaments, garlands, and he gave her the benediction. And he said something very interesting. He said, I know that you've been afflicted, because your son, has lost his position, and you want him to be reestablished. But he said, but I can't just go and defeat Bali, because Bali has the blessings of the Brahmanas, right? And I will never go against my design. He says, in this world, my design is that those who uphold Dharma will be protected. And proper Brahmanas who teach in that way, I uphold their blessings as well, right? So Bali has acted appropriately following his guru, Shukracharya. Even though he's a leader of the demons, he's a faultless Brahmana. So we have to devise another way to overcome him, not by battle. And so then he takes the form of the dwarf Brahmana. Very beautiful, golden form. And then all the demigods and everybody come together and they perform the samskaras of like when you take your sacred thread and a young Brahmana boy, and then he is given his staff, his umbrella, his water pot, his deer skin, a belt made out of some kind of tree bark, and all the things, simple things that a Brahmana would use. And so they gift him with all these things, and then he goes off to where Bali is doing a big sacrifice. And when he comes, his effulgence is so beautiful that everybody becomes astonished. Even all these great sages descending from the higher planets of the sages, who are naturally effulgent themselves, even their luster is diminished in the presence of this young Brahmin boy. And they all offer respects, right? And he goes up to Bali, and Bali, who acts very strictly according to Dharma, says, "Oh, you've come before me, what can I give you? I'll give you whatever you like. If you want a kingdom, if you want land, if you want a kingdom, if you want beautiful Brahmani wives, wealth, I'm prepared to give you whatever you like." He says, "I'm a Brahmin. I don't want any of these things. I don't need any of these things. I just need 3 steps of land that I can do my seva on, right? My brahminical duties." And Bali says, "Oh, young boy, you're very inexperienced. You should take more than that. I'm the king of the universe. I can give you anything." "No, that's enough. That's enough." But Shukracharya, he all of a sudden, he understands. He's got vision, right? He's very powerful. And he realizes, oh, this is Vishnu come in a disguise. Vishnu is so sneaky and clever. And he advises Bali not to give him the land. He says, "This is your enemy coming in disguise." But Bali, who's very dharmic, is thinking, "Ooh, but he's a Brahmana and I've made a promise." And there's a very beautiful section in the Bhagavatam about that. When we were in Houston, this is in the late 1979 or so, our Sunday feast, we made a puppet theater. And one of our devotees, his name was Kundara, he wrote the music. We did a musical puppet show, right? And we had Bali Maharaj, we had Shukracharya, all the different puppets. And he wrote this beautiful song that Bali Maharaj telling the Shukracharya, right? And he says, "I'm the grand," and we had a guitar, Sunanda. I don't know if anybody knows Sunanda, very dear godbrother, famous cook, lives in Santa Cruz now. He was playing guitar. I think P.R. Mohan was the other puppeteer. He's in Connecticut now. Anyway, "I'm the grandson of Maharaj Prahlad. How can I withdraw my word?" Boom, 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 right? "How dare I cheat a Brahmana? I've given Vamana my word." It's right out of the Bhagavatam, right? "When a liar steps on her terrain, Mother Earth feels pain." Right? It goes on, "I don't fear living in hell or poverty as much as I fear untruthfulness." Anyway, it's a great song. And and that's the tattva, right? That's what he told Shukracharya. And Shukracharya was very upset. And he said, "I'm your guru. If you disobey me, you will lose everything." Right? But he disobeyed him. And he gave the land. Right? Now this is interesting, because now what happens, as soon as he says, then Vamana says, "Yes, I will give you." Vamana takes his first step, right? And from there he covers the entire earth. He expands into this incredible form that they can all see, and he covers the entire earth. How that vision is revealed to everyone, how it happens, it's a Chinta Shakti. How can you describe it? Then, with the next step, he covers from the lower planetary systems all the way up to the higher planetary, the whole universe. And then he says, And then he says, okay, everything is mine now. And he orders that Bali be tied up. And so they have the ropes of Vasuki, the snake ropes, right? And so he's tied up like a thief. You're a thief. I've taken everything. You've offered me 3 steps. I've only have 2 steps. You have nothing left. What will you offer me now? But Bali Maharaj, remember, he's the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj was benedicted by Nrsingadev that 21 generations would be devotees. Right? So he's actually a devotee. It just hadn't shown itself. And he realizes, oh, this is the Lord himself. And he said, my Lord, you've taken everything away. The only thing I have left is my head. And he prostrated himself down. Take your 3rd step on my head, which the Lord did, which is the greatest benediction. And then he released him. And then he said, now I'm going to reestablish my devotees. I have to send you to another place. And he sent him down to the Patala region in the lower planetary systems where the demons reside, but he sent him to this planet of Sutala. And you can read descriptions. Some of these planets are the equal or surpass the beauty of the planets of the demigods. And Sutala is this extraordinarily opulent place, more even opulent than Swarga. And he says, you go down there and you will live there. You're the Lord of that place. And then Bali says, my Lord, you've taken everything. I've surrendered to you. I have one request. He says, ask what you like. I'm prepared to give you a boon. And he said, I want that you're going to, I don't want to ever be separated from you. So my palace down there, how many gates? It had some 50-something gates. And I have to come and go from the palace. So I make one request, that whatever gate I come or go from, that you always be there. You be like the doorkeeper, the guard. You please be my gatekeeper so that I can always see you. And he said, okay, all right. So he happily went. And then the question is, now, Indra disobeyed his guru, and he lost everything, right? And then he got back, but then by the grace of the Lord, he got back all the opulence. Now Bali disobeyed his guru, but he got the benediction and the mercy of the Lord. But he disobeyed his guru. So how is that? Right? How is that possible? What is the teaching here? Is it that actually I think Srila Prabhupada will speak to that. Because Shukracharya had said, don't do it. And so there's this verse in the 20th chapter. O King Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami says, when Bali Maharaj was thus advised by his spiritual master, Shukracharya, his family priest, he remained silent for some time, and after full deliberation, he replied to his spiritual master as follows. And Srila Prabhupada quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Bali Maharaj remained silent at a critical point. How could he disobey the instruction of Shukracharya, his spiritual master? It is the duty of such a sober personality as Bali Maharaj to abide by the orders of his spiritual master immediately, as his spiritual master had advised. But Bali Maharaj also considered that Shukracharya was no longer to be accepted as a spiritual master, for he had deviated from the duty of a spiritual master. According to Shastra, the duty of a guru is to take the disciple back to home, back to Godhead. If he is unable to do so, and instead hinders the disciple in going back to Godhead, he should not be guru. Guru na sasyat, Bhagavatam 5.5.18. Actually, in Jiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes Jiva Goswami in the ways that one may be justified in rejecting a guru. And one of them is that if he can't do anything for you, you can reject him. Or if he's deviated from the proper Siddhanta or is an offender to Vaishnavas and the Lord. And this is, Shukracharya had crossed that line, right? Now, if a guru is lacking knowledge, but he's still following, and he's just not advanced enough to deliver you, you don't have to outright reject him. You just request, I need further instruction. I've been inspired by this great high devotee. May I please go here? And a qualified lesser guru, like someone on the Madhyam platform, will say, yes, you should hear from them. And I will also go and hear from them. That's appropriate. Right? You don't have to reject that kind of guru. And that guru should still be honored. There was one of my godbrothers had some disciples, but he came to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami and he said, I can't take them all the way, right? I'm limited. I'm offering them to you as your disciples. And he said, no, they should remain your disciples. And he instructed them and said, your guru is qualified. I will give you shiksha, and you will continue to honor him as a guru, and I will give you the further shiksha you require, right? Even when Dukhi Krishnadas, his guru was Hriday Chaitanya, eternal associate, the disciple of Gauridas Pandit. Great, great devotee, but he sent him to Jiva Goswami to get the instruction on internal bhajan because his identity in Krishna Lila is a cowherd boy, associate of Subal. And Dukhi Krishnadas, who became Shyamananda, is a manjari. So to get instruction on that, he sent him to Jiva Goswami for that greater instruction. Because as we've been hearing from Ramananda Roy in the Madhya Lila 8, that only the gopis can give that instruction. No one else. No one in Dasya, Sakya, or Vatsalya can instruct one in Shringar Ras and help one cultivate through the Ekadash Bhavs that level. So one should not become a guru if he cannot enable his disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. The goal of life is to become a devotee of Lord Krishna so that one may be freed from the bondage of material existence. Chaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam etisa arjuna. The spiritual master helps the disciple attain this stage by developing Krishna consciousness. Now, Srila Prabhupada and other gurus will instruct their disciples. They say over and over that real guru has to be a Mahabhagavat, but it's also instructed disciples to be guru that are not on that level. So guru can be a shiksha, you can give shiksha. Even a Kanishta devotee can give shiksha to less qualified people. And a Madhyam can certainly give very good instruction because they've advanced so much. But if some disciple is at the level where they need to go further, Srila Prabhupada says in the Upadeshamrita that one should understand that the Madhyam Guru cannot help one advance sufficiently because their instruction is meager. Now, from our perspective, it's very high, but from the perspective of the perfection that you achieve in Bhav Bhakti, that's very high. So yes, one can be a guru as a madhyam, but there are limits to how much you can give. So there's no contradiction there. One should not become a guru if he cannot enable his disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. So certainly a madhyam can help one advance greatly, but then there may be a time when they should turn them over. All right. So the spiritual master helps the disciple attain this stage by developing Krishna consciousness. Now Shukracharya has advised Bali Maharaj to deny the promise to Vamanadeva. Under the circumstances, therefore, Bali Maharaj thought that there would be no fault if he disobeyed the order of his spiritual master. Because the spiritual master gave instructions, Shastra says that there are conditions in which you can disobey, right? And I guess it was in the earlier section. Yeah, he said there are, whoops. Yeah, he says these are the times when you can speak untruthfulness or do something. The safe course is to say no. Although it's a falsehood, it protects one completely. It draws the compassion of others towards oneself, and it gives one full facility. Wait a minute. Oh, here we go. In flattering a woman to bring her under control. Oh, that's harsh. In joking, in a marriage ceremony, in earning one's livelihood, when one's life is in danger, in protecting cows and Brahminical culture, or in protecting a person from an enemy's hand, falsity is never condemned. There's a story of some Muslims chasing a cow in Navadvip, and the cow took shelter in a Brahmin's backyard, and they were looking for it. They asked the Brahmin, "Have you seen this cow?" And he said, "Oh, it went that way." But he's protecting a cow. He ordinarily would never lie, especially in the Dham, right? Or you see somebody who has, being chased and they're going to murder him, and you hide them in your house, and they say, "Have you seen this person?" No, he went that way. That's okay. He's saying there, to protect your livelihood, to protect your life, you made that vow not knowing what was going on. You're allowed to lie. Take it back. But Bali Maharaj understood there's a much higher principle. Lord Vishnu should be pleased in all circumstances, even at the risk of ignoring the Guru's advice to the contrary. Anyone who is supposed to be a Guru, but who goes against the principle of Vishnu Bhakti, cannot be accepted as a Guru. If one has falsely accepted such a Guru, one should reject him. Right? And so he gives this quote from the Mahabharata. Gurur apya viliptasya karyam ajanata upatya patipanasya patijago vidhiyate. Shiva Jiva Goswami has advised that such a useless Guru, a family priest acting as Guru, should be given up, and that the proper bona fide Guru should be accepted. And then he quotes Padma Purana. And these are the two things that Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes in Jiva Dharma, right? Sat karma nipano viparo mantra tantra visharada a Vaishnavo Guru nasyad Vaishnava swapacho Guru. A scholarly Brahmin, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But if a person born in a family of a lower caste is a Vaishnava, he can become a spiritual master. So, Bali Maharaj rejected that, and he lost his kingdom, but he gained a very good kingdom nevertheless. But more than that, he became established in pure bhakti, right? Which is the greatest gift of all, right? So, two different results. Indra lost, and then he lost all his kingdom, and the Lord also gave him a benediction. But what did he get? He got his kingdom back. And so he got material kingdom, right? But he still, he didn't get what Bali Maharaj got. Bali Maharaj got pure bhakti. Lord Indra, right? He's still a great devotee, but he didn't get the level of bhakti that Bali Maharaj was granted. And there are so many side stories to that. One little side story is that the daughter of Bali Maharaj was there. Her name was Ratnamala. And when she saw Vaman Maharaj come into the assembly, she was so attracted to him, she thought, "Oh, such a sweet boy. I wish I had a young child like him." and I could nurse him. I would want to give him my milk, breast milk. And Bali Maharaj acknowledged that wish. Yes, so be it. Then, after her father had everything taken away and was humiliated and tied up, she became so angry, and she thought, oh, yeah, I would give him my breast milk, but I would cover it with poison and kill him. What a child. She was so angry at him that he had done this to her father. So she said, yeah, I'll put poison on my breast and kill him. And Bali said, yes, I grant that too. And she became Putana. And she also got liberation because she's a child of Bali Maharaj and was, but you have to be careful what you wish for. It comes true in different ways, right? So, Ratnamala. Great devotee, ultimately. All right. Oh, so there's so many stories. One last little quick one, that Bali had Vamanadeva, and Vamanadeva didn't go back. He had left the goddess of fortune saying, I'm going to be gone just a little bit, I'll be back. But then he didn't come back. And she waited and waited, where's my husband? And then Narad Muni came to visit her, and she expressed to him, where's my husband gone? And he told her the story that, now he's at Bali Maharaj's palace in Sutala. And he's promised to be his doorman. So he's there, can't leave. So she thought, So Bali Maharaj, the king will give charity. There's certain times the king sits and everybody who comes to him, he'll give them charity. And this is one of those times. So she went there, and she took the form of an old Brahmani. Very old, but very beautiful. And everybody down there is clamoring to Bali Maharaj. Oh, I want this, I want that. They're all lined up. But she was sitting in the back all alone. Very self-composed, very controlled. Brahmani woman, very respectable. And he looked and he said, everybody's here begging me for things. She must want something, but she's not saying anything. She's very controlled. And so he called her forward, Mother, why have you come? Who are you? What do you want? She wouldn't answer anything. And then he insisted, please tell me. She remained silent. And he was, she's so self-controlled, so humble. And then finally, after he said, I will give you whatever you want. And then she said, do you promise? And he said, yes, I promise. You'll promise you'll give anything I want? Yes. And you promise? Yes. 3 times. And then he said, so what do you want? And then again, when I ask, you must give it to me. I will, whatever it is. And again, 3 times. And then all of a sudden he realized, this is the same thing that Vaman Maharaj did to me. Vamanadeva, not Vaman Maharaj, Vamanadeva. Who is this lady? Who are you? And what do you want? And she just pointed to the doorkeeper, her husband. And then he realized, I've been tricked again. And he realized who she was. She's a goddess of fortune. And on the one hand, he was overjoyed that she came to his place. On the other hand, he thought, now I've lost my Lord. And so he said, yes, you can have him back. But I beg one benediction. Please, Lord, make some arrangement that I can still see you, that you can still be here. And so Lord Vishnu said, Lord Vaman, in his form, beautiful, said, okay. And he gave a special expansion, expanded himself so he could still be the gatekeeper of Bali Maharaj. Because the Lord's always controlled by the love of his devotees, right? And so there are many, this is the lesson of Bhagavatam. This is 8th canto, getting very close, to 10th canto. The Bhagavatam is about the incarnations of the Lord, but really it's about the devotees of the Lord, even more, and how they serve these incarnations and how they develop love and express it in their service. So we're learning more and more about the subtlety and intricacies of bhakti in these pastimes. So Vamanadeva, he gave all benedictions to those who were his devotees. What would you ask for if the Lord asked you for any benediction? There's the story of one man. In India, they used to have barges go up and down the Ganges, right? But to go upstream, you can't go upstream. If you have favorable winds, you can go up a little bit, but oftentimes you don't. So every village had these people that you could hire out that would tow the boats along the bank, attach ropes, and take it to the next village, and then the next group. And it was the rainy season, and when this one boat puller was pulling, and every step he took, he was sinking up to his knees. And it was so hard and so difficult. He's praying, "Oh, Lord, please help me." And he called out with such distress and such sincerity that Lord Narayan appeared. And he said, "Oh, I've come." And he was so happy, so pleased. "Oh, Lord, you've come. What do you want?" "Well, it's the rainy season, and I have to do my job, but I keep sinking in the mud. Can you please arrange that the whole bank is covered in nice, thick mats so I won't sink in the mud?" "All right," boom, and he goes. Another story of some poor old lady walking in the village. You live in India, you know that these ladies, even in old age, they gather sticks and carry the bundles on their head, heavy bundles of wood. And this old lady, and she's carrying this heavy bundle, and it was so hot, and she had no water, and finally out of fatigue, she fell down and dropped the bundle, and she couldn't get it back up. And she began to cry, "Oh, Lord, oh, Lord, oh." The Lord appeared. "Oh, mother, what can I help you with? Could you please put this bundle back on my head so I can take it to my family?" All right. So, yes, that's all, yes. So, that's us sometimes too, right? "Oh, could you just fix house 1? So I have good heat in my room." Things like that. "Oh, if I only had money, then I could do this and that." No. All we really want is pure bhakti. I just want a Palyadasi, be a Palyadasi of Srimati Radhika. Anything else, insignificant. If I have that, I have everything. I want to be in the eternal association of my gurus, in that loving environment with these extraordinary persons, and I want to serve them eternally in a very humble and simple way. That is enough for me. If we could pray like that, and pray that all the obstacles, all the anarthas, everything else, just be dispelled. Bali Maharaj gave up everything, and he got that benediction, right? That intimate association. Aditi prayed that her sons be reestablished in their position, and that's what they got. Of course, she got the darshan of the Lord and all, but what did she ask for? She got the Lord as her son. Great, right? But the highest benediction is what, and ultimately, they became Vasudeva and Devaki. And of course, on a much higher level, but Mother Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they just wanted the love to serve the Lord with pure Vatsalya Prem. They didn't want the idea of God as our son. They wanted to serve with pure parental affection. And that means without even any awareness that the Lord's your son. When the Lord appeared to Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his four-armed form to show them, yes, you've requested I come, now I've come. When Krishna came, in order to allow full Vatsalya Prem to be manifest, he appeared not just all of a sudden he's in the womb and then he's out in his full feature, but he came from the womb, even with an umbilical cord. And nobody ever knew or even suspected that he could be God, no matter what he did. Lifting Govardhan Hill, killing so many demons, even from being a baby, killing the demoness Putana. No, Lord Narayan especially favors our beautiful boy. That's all they saw, pure Vatsalya. So these are the progressive lessons. And in this stage, Bali has willingly given up everything and got such a great benediction. So we'll stop here. Offer obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the Vaishnavas, Sri Vamanadeva, Bhagavan Vamanadeva to Srila Jiva Goswami, Guru Varga, and all the assembled devotees. Haribol, Haribol.